So last semester, in order to meet my required credit hours, I needed to add another class on there. And I was like, well, there's nothing else available for my major to add. What do I do? Mind you, I'm an environmental sustainability major. But then I was like, wait, I've been getting really into screenwriting recently, and that's low key also what I want to do. Maybe even a little bit more than sustainability. Don't get me wrong. Definitely still care about our climate. But I was like, this seems like way more fun and less depressing. So I was like, what do I do? Is there any film class I can take as a non-film major? And it turns out there was, and it was online. And we had to watch a movie every week. So that's what this video is going to be about, me ranking every single movie we had to watch. I will be shitting on some of the classics. I will. Some of y'all are gonna be real mad at me, like for the, what are they called, cinephiles out there? Yeah, some of y'all are gonna be like, you have no taste. No, 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 no. I don't care. I don't care. I simply do not care. I like what I like, and most people though probably won't even know what some of these movies are. But you know what? I'll give like a description, a quick plot summary, and if I put you on, let me know. Like, give me my tens, give me my credit for that. So this class was called like the history of world cinema, and I was like, well, yes, that sounds so interesting. And honestly, I'm glad I took it because I learned a lot. We had to get this textbook because, girl, even though it was an online class, it was kind of a lot of work. Like, you had to watch a movie. Some of them were like 3 hours long. Makes sense though. It's a film class, so like, don't trip. Like, I'm good. And then you had to do a quiz, online quiz, and then you had to do a discussion post. Started off like 250 words, and then gradually moved up to like 500 sometimes. Every Thursday, those two are always due Thursday, and then on Sunday you would have to write like a mini essay. So we started at like 500 words, and then like 850, and then like 1,000, and then like our final essay was supposed to be like 2,000, but mine ended up being like almost 4,000 words. I also took a writing course last semester, and that one was about the environment. So, like I said, don't do me. And I got an A in that class, and I think I got an A plus in this film class because I had 103%. Who's doing it like me? Like, who's doing it like me? So I do belong in this scene, okay? I belong in both. It can work. It is possible. I'll be the first. So yeah, I learned a lot of goated writing techniques, world building. I learned how like other countries produce and film their movies. Like, oh, it was so good. Also like directing tips too. I just didn't really think about a lot of stuff, and I'm like, wow, like I'm fully enlightened now. Like, I get it. Framing, all that. So yeah, there were 13 movies in 13 weeks. So let's get into our rankings. Let me explain these rankings real quick. So in the top spot we have You Know What, Hell Yeah. You Know What, Hell Yeah. What else do I have to say? These were the unexpected gems. They were like grade A diamonds. They were the baddest heifers on the floor. No notes. No notes. Next up, we have award season somewhere. I mean, these movies were good. These movies were tea, just a little bit. But if there was an award show where like all the awards were given single handedly by me, then they wouldn't exactly get it. We can't just pass out trophies to everyone, okay? Like, the top tier would clear you bad. Somewhere else. Somebody else is gonna have to hand it to you, love. In the mid tier, we have almost noteworthy. There were some parts I enjoyed, some parts that I would definitely change, some parts that were forgettable or basic. You were so close, yet so far. In second to last, we had me in the first half because they did. Like, I liked where the film was taking me. I liked the journey. I appreciated it. But somewhere along the line, y'all flopped. But I liked the premise, but that's just not how I would have done it. And I'm always right. So, yeah, you missed the mark. More than mid. Like, it was below. Probably not gonna watch it again type shit. And last and least, we have I'm Sleep. No offense to my professor, and I hope you never see this, but for those movies that will be going here, I literally did not finish them. I did indeed look up plot summaries to finish those assignments. The assignments were only worth like 3 and 5 points each. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, the whole cumulative score at the end was 200 points. Never in my life. Never in my life. That's terrifying. For all I had to write, you're giving me 5 or 3 points? Are you kidding me? But I did not use AI. That was all me, baby. That was all me. Fuck AI. I don't like it. It's taking jobs from writers, or will. And it's just creepy. Like, no AI, no. And it's bad for the environment. So that too, no more. Ban it, block it. Don't use it. Don't use it. Cliff notes and IMDb summaries and Wikipedia Loki, your best friend. Just use those. Don't use AI. Another little side comment before we get into it. The way over half of these movies are remakes. Like, I'm going to have a counter somewhere. I'm going to make a counter because it's getting real crazy. I thought this was like a new phenomenon, but no, they've been doing this. See, this is why y'all need to support me. I promise I would shake the industry up in a good way. Like, I swear. I will be so original. So original. Let's just get into these movies, girl. We got a lot to get to. Pumzi was the name of the first film we had to watch, and it was like a 21-minute short film. Well, duh. And it was a silent film, though, and it was set in a futuristic Africa, but not in the ideal way. Like, everything was gone. There's like no life there. Like, it's terrible. Because of global warming and climate change, which, if you still don't believe in, get the hell up off my channel. Like, we don't do non believers here. But because of those two sisters working together, the world has gone to shit and they have nothing. There's no life. There's no living anything, and they don't have water because apparently, which we see from context clues, which is really, really smart. And I need to work on doing that in my own scripts because I keep addressing everything. But we see that there was a World War III, and that was called the Water Wars. I mean, I hate to say it, but if we don't get our stuff together, the fight for resources will be very real. There's just too many people and not enough water and everything going around. So, like, ooh, like we need to work on this for real. So the main character in this Kenyan community is named Asha, and she a baddie. And this community, unfortunately, though, is powered by the people. And I'm not talking about like we the people. I'm talking about like since there's no water, you really can't do a lot. Like people don't realize how much we use water, but yeah, they are basically laborers and make electricity, make everything, and they use their sweat for everything because there's some water content in there. Is that not crazy? I was like, oh my god, like, is this really our future for real? So basically, what really kickstarted the film is that she gets this small package of soil, and she's like, oh my god, like soil. And I think that's what causes her to have like this out of body experience because life is very uncommon here. So she has this vision, and they're in this like vast sand dune because that's all they really got now. Everything is like dried up, and there's this big old tree, like a mother tree. Like think of a gigantic tree. Think of that times like three. It was huge. It was huge. Takes up like the whole screen. And she's like, Dad, where is it? I gotta find it. Anyway, fast forward a little bit. She asks her like supervisors if she could like go out, and they were like, no. So the people in power are keeping the shit on lock. What's new? What's unusual about that? Like we've been there, done that. Let's not get into it. So yeah, the security after she got denied destroyed all of her precious soil, and with the help of a bathroom attendant, though, real one alert, she snuck her out so Asha could go find this tree and like tell people that there is still life out there. Turns out there's not. That was literally just a dream. Like she made all that up. But then she's like, you know what? I have an idea. So she digs a little hole, pours her little bit of water that she was allotted for the day in there, wrings out her shirt, and I don't know what else she put in there. From what I remember, she just laid down, and the last shot we see is like a tree growing out of her. Beautiful. Like, work. Good for her. I'm putting this one in almost noteworthy because it wasn't terrible by any means. Like, it was a nice start. It was entertaining. I like the message. I genuinely support it. Like, I agree. Like, we gotta be careful. It just wasn't my favorite. It was short and sweet, but I really wish there was some dialogue for clarity. But I think they didn't have like the biggest budget, so I'm not gonna complain. Like and they did a really nice job with what they had. Like it did feel futuristic. It was kind of given, like those dystopian films, but like just set in Africa this time. Next up, we're going to get into Irma Vep, which this movie was just the biggest sigh. The biggest sigh, because where do I even start? Like, the potential of this movie was going crazy. This should probably give you a sign of where it's going, but this movie has a remake. In 2022, it was a miniseries instead of a movie, but I'm going to count it and gag it because guess what? Irma Vep, the one I'm about to talk about, is also a remake of something else too. So it's like remake central over here. So Irma Vep is about Maggie, who is an actress, and she was hired on to this French film to play a fictionalized version of herself. That is like my ultimate dream. No, like actually, like that is my dream. I would love to do that. That'd be so fun. I feel like that'd be so cunt, Like, let me have a turn. Like, I'm trying to be like Issa Rae, you know what I mean? She flew from Hong Kong to France, so like in the beginning, it's about her learning the culture, kind of like picking up on the language a little bit, trying to fit in, adjust, fish out of water story. Maybe we should have stuck with that. That's not what this film decided to do, though. They took us everywhere. So, a big portion of this film deals with what goes down on set. So, it's like a film within a film. I live for that. I love that. I eat it up every time. Like, I love to see it. So, Irma Vep is the name of the character, obviously, that Maggie is playing. And she's like a spy and a burglar in this fine ass cat suit. Like, the body is tea. Like, the body is body-odying right now. Okay, Maggie. I see you, Maggie. And basically, the director just keeps popping off because he hates how everything is turning out. Like, he needs to calm down a little bit. Like, he needs to take a chill pill. There's something not right. But anyway, Zoe, who's the costumer on set, invites Maggie to her house. And apparently, Miss Zoe's she a little fruity tooty. We love to see it. She got a little crush on Maggie in like days, which honestly, that's so real. It doesn't take me long to get a crush either. Like, what can I say? I was trying to judge, but I can't because that's me for real. That's me. I was so excited where this movie could go from here because I was like, wait, like they're gonna fall in love and be little fruit bowls together. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is gonna be so cute. Like, I was kicking my feet. I was ready. I was excited. I was sad. No, there's no lesbian romance in this film. Sorry to burst your bubble. That's not where they were going with this. Later on in this film, Maggie ends up getting like possessed by Irma Vep and actually decides to go rob someone's hotel room. That part confused the hell out of me because I was like, is this for real or is this for fake? Like, is this actually going down right now or am I like tripping? I had to like rewatch that scene like 5 times to understand if that was like a part of the film they were making or like a part of her real life. I guess that means the film like that I'm watching did a nice job. I don't know. This is such a mind fuck to me. I can't make sense of this. But I think she was trying to feel powerful like her character. That's why she did it. That's why she decided to rob this random unclothed lady. Can't explain it. Maggie, would you like to explain yourself? Eventually, the director stops showing up set because he's a mess and he's been going through it. So, and then a new one gets hired towards the end, and he doesn't like that a Chinese girl is playing a vampire because he's like, she's supposed to be white and this and that, you know, because vampires have to be white because they're real. Like, okay, like, who really gives a damn? But yeah, he was real racist, and yeah, Maggie wasn't dealing with that. He doesn't explicitly fire her though. I think she just left. I think she was like, this ain't my scene. This ain't working out for me. France got some issues they need to work out. I'm dipping. And she left. I think she goes, because she mentioned it a few times, I think she was hired to do this film in America with Ridley Scott. I have heard of that name before. I don't know how or who that is, but seems like he's very high profile, so I'm jealous. So if you haven't clocked it yet, Irma Vep is like an anagram of the word vampire. When I found that out, like the world stopped. Like Beyonce, like the world stopped. Based on that alone, I would consider this movie a slay, but unfortunately, it just was not. This movie felt like 3 hours. It was so boring. Like, I told you guys all the best parts. Genuinely, I gave you all the best parts. Do not watch this movie. It was an interesting concept, but I was not digging the execution. We could have had a lesbian romance, we could have had the crash out of the century, and last but not least, an iconic new Catwoman type of character, but no, we got bullcrap. That's what we got. I'm just not a fan, so I'm putting it in You Had Me in the First Half. It pains me to do that, but here we are. So for our next little unit, we had like different types of fighting styles, basically is how I would categorize it. And the first one we looked at were like cowboys. Now, one thing about me, I love a cowboy, but I've never really been into Western films, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna hate this one, aren't I? This one's gonna be just as bad. I should drop this class, but girl, was I caught by surprise. We watched The Magnificent Seven, never heard of that before, but would you look at that? In 2016, there was a remake of this movie. So add another tally to the remake. And the gag is, this is literally just a Western version of the samurai film that we watched right after this. So technically, this is like a rendition, aka alternate universe, aka a remake. So I'm counting it as a remake. Like, the stories are almost exactly the same, different countries, different time period, different scenarios, but it's the same story. So the basic plot of this movie is that like a Mexican village is constantly being terrorized by this group of Mexican bandits led by a man named Calvera. They always take nearly all of the villagers' food and like supplies and leave them with nothing, and they're like, we can't take this anymore. How are we supposed to fight back? We have nothing. They keep taking everything. We don't have like the power. We don't have the pew pews like they have pew pews. So like, what do we do? So a few of them reach their breaking point and they're like, we're gonna go look for talent. We're gonna go on a talent search. We're gonna look for people that can defend us with our very little money. I felt really bad. Like, if this was like outside of a movie, nobody would help them, I fear. I don't know. I've never lived in like the Western era. I can't say how generous people were, but human beings are human beings. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody would have risked their lives for them. Like, that's just so sad. But in movie land, we're going to be happy that they found people that would. So they crossed over the border to the US. So they're in Texas now. Yeehaw. Everybody get your cowboy hats going. Absolutely. Dip them, tip them, whatever. Oh, wait, I forgot. They were trying to barter for weapons. They were trying to buy weapons so they can just do it themselves. So they weren't looking for no white savior. We applaud. But then they meet this gunslinger named Chris, and he was like, listen, hiring men to do the job for you is cheaper than buying pew pews that you don't even know how to use. He's kind of real for that. He was being real because he could have just took their money or just gave them some pew pews, but he was like, "Nah, like let me give y'all some help." He's so fine too. Like the actor that played him is so fine too. Like we just don't get hot men like this anymore. Like it's actually sick. Like where is my heartthrob? Like where's the Gen Z heartthrob? They're nowhere to be found. Nowhere. This film also made me realize that like a cowboy hat can do wonders for somebody that's not even hot. But if you are hot, it's just a bonus. Like every man needs to just start wearing cowboy hats again. Do it. Who's stopping you? You'll look 10 times hotter, I promise. You just got to get a right color. Everybody go do that color match in Korea, come back, and then get you a cowboy hat. Absolutely. I love random people coming together and forming a team. Like the familial bond is just beautiful to witness. I mean, if you couldn't tell from the title, then girl, what's going on? Comprehension. The Magnificent Seven. Chris ain't seven people. There were only three Mexican people that came from the village. They are not even a part of the seven, so here we go. Let's meet our cowboys, yeehaw. Chris becomes the leader, even though he really didn't want to be. He was more of the recruiter, but then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna help y'all out. Then we meet Vin, who's like this broke pew pew fighter because he was gambling too much. And then Chris had this friend named Harry who's kind of like down on his luck right now, and he thinks that they're gonna get some huge reward for this. Like he thinks that the Mexicans aren't promising them everything because they just want them to like win first and beat Calvera. I don't know. I think he thought there was like some money hidden in like hills somewhere or mountains in Mexico or gold. He thought it was gold. Maybe there were. I really don't know a lot of history. I'm sorry. There wasn't any though. There was not. They literally had no money. Like they just needed help. But that's like literally the only reason he joined. So I see the type of person you are. Bernardo is an Irish Mexican man. I have never seen those flavors mixed together before. Is that problematic to say? I don't. You guys know I don't mean that in a bad way, right? Like I'm just saying, like, okay, let me stop. Let me stop. He basically just has nothing to lose. He's like, why not? The biggest case of fuck it, we ball I've ever seen. I aspire to be like you, truly, because that would not be me. I would be writing a list of all the things that could go wrong. But I salute you. You're a real one. And then Britt, who just loves a challenge. And then there's my second favorite, besides Chris, obviously. We have Lee, who's just kind of like, he's having nightmares. He's had a traumatic past, you know? Like, I feel you. He's been through a lot, and he's just kind of like sick of running away all the time from all of his enemies. But he has such a fire fit on. It's like, wow. And if you can do basic math, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not even 7 men yet. So where does the seventh man come in? Well, we see him a lot in the beginning. His name is Chico. And he wants to be a gunfighter just like the rest of these boys. Chris turned him down like a bunch of times before he started like following them. Nevertheless, he persisted, and Chris appreciated that, so he let him in. And now we have our team. We have our Winx Club of the Western Universe. Period. I'm not gonna spoil it too much after this because I need you guys to go watch this movie. Like, I never thought in my life I would be saying that. Like, I sound like my grandpa right now. He loves these Western movies. I'm sure he's seen this one. I should have talked about that with him when he last came over, but like, yeah. There's like a few little mini fights, of course, and then we get our big final battle, and oh my god, hooked. You could not pull me from that screen. They had me, girl. They had me by the throat. I just could not look away. And actually, this film, you know, not all of them make it. I've noticed with a lot of films now, everybody lives. Everybody lives. And in this movie, that's not the case. Like, give me some stakes. Give me some stakes. We love death. We love to see it. I sound like Dylan is in trouble. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, I love a movie that's not afraid to, like, end some of the main characters. The movie is them bonding with each other and the villagers. Like, they weren't really problematic towards them. Mwah, chef's kiss. Thank you. Because I was a little fearful. I said, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what's going on? What's gonna happen? So for ranking, take a guess where this is gonna go. 3, 2, 1, ding ding ding, top spot. You know what? Hell yeah. Like, I was shocked. I was shocked. In tears almost that I like this movie. But I really do like this movie. I want to watch it again right now. Right now, I kind of want to watch it again. I would genuinely recommend this to people. Like for the girls too, like we all need to like get into our Western bag. We need to bring this back. Well, they tried in 2016, but like we don't want a remake. We want like new, young, hot cowboys. Who's with me? Who's with me? Somebody produce it and I'll write it. I promise. This is the OG. This is the it girl. If I remember from the reading that we had to do, oh yeah, because sometimes in that film class we had to do readings too. But if I remember correctly, this is one of the first films to ever have a team band together like that. They made history with this one. They really did. It's a very influential film and highly regarded by the critics, which is, you know how picky they are. And a lot of them say this is one of the best films of all time. So I was like geeked to watch it. I was like, well, I'm sat now. Let me sit up. Even though our teacher also spoiled, like, this was the OG before the other one. I was like, it's different though. Like, this one's got to be even better because you can't fuck with the original, right? I am a modern hoe. I just don't like a lot of older stuff. Not just movies, not just TV shows, but just stuff. Yeah, I was definitely born in the right generation. I was just not feeling it. It was so extremely, incredibly boring. Boring, 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 boring. Tomato, tomato, tomato. And I did not want it to go like that. And before you say, for the people that know this movie, oh, you just don't like it because it was in black and white, not true. Not true. Some of you might be like, oh, it's because it's a Japanese film. Not true. I hate to be that girl, but like, I do watch anime. I have watched anime films as well. Like, I don't care if it's a Japanese film. I've watched Japanese dramas. So I don't care. It's not the language barrier. It's not the black or white. It's just boring. Every character pretty much has a parallel to the ones in this Magnificent Seven, but like this one is just samurais instead of like gunslingers and cowboys. And instead of like villagers from another country, it was just like Japanese farmers that just needed help. I really gave this movie a shot, but it was just snail's pace. So I ended up reading the script for this one instead of watching it to finish my assignment because I just could not. Whoever decided to make scripts available online, chef kiss. Because you know how many scripts I've read, like learn and dissect from over the past year to just like try to get better at my own? A lot. Probably like 30. This is our first addition to the I'm sleep tier because I just cannot vibe with it. Bruce Lee's The Way of the Dragon, and when I checked the date of this movie came out a year before my mother was born. For some reason, I just can't think of anything older than my mother. That sounds so horrible. But like anything that's older than my mom, I'm like, wow, that's like really old. I just didn't think this movie came out that long ago. I thought it was more like 80s. Like she would have been growing up for this, but this was before her time. I've never seen any Bruce Lee movie before, so I was like, okay, I'm not mad that this is a part of our fighting unit. Kung Fu, let's get it. I've never really been into that, but I think it's really cool. My grandpa loves shit like this, and I see why, because the way Bruce Lee was working them nunchucks, that like faster than the speed of light. Like the camera could not pick that shit up properly. Like that was crazy. He was good at his craft, I'll give him that. And he could direct too. Like, whoa, I didn't realize he directed this as well as starred in it. Who's touching Bruce Lee? Nobody. Nobody. So the film is set in Rome and mainly centers around a Chinese restaurant. And so basically the owners of this restaurant are being harassed by like a local Italian mob boss. Like, whoa, we're going there. And the owners of the restaurant requested help from like one of their relatives in Hong Kong that knows Bruce Lee's character, Tong something. Yeah, I think Tong is his first name. I'm not sure. Basically, he has to like adjust to life here, get used to everything. He doesn't come from money, so he doesn't really have a lot of money. But yeah, he doesn't speak the language and any of that, so he's already kind of like feeling a fish out of water there. And you think in the Chinese restaurant that he was sent to protect, they would, respect him. But at first, like the restaurant, like staff, the waiters and everything were picking on him because they were like, "How you gonna protect us with kung fu? Like, you a clown. You can't do nothing for real. You ain't gonna do nothing for real." They quickly learned while he was sent there because he whooped some ass, girl. He was the OG. He was an iconic ass kicker. Those fight scenes in that back alleyway go crazy. That's how you do a fight scene. No, that's how you do a one-on-one and a one on like 15. He beat like 15 people at one time. He said, no, 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 this is my movie. I'm running shit here. And I support that. Towards the end, the crime boss is like, okay, even our peepoos ain't even doing nothing against him. He's just like kicking them out of our hands, whipping them with his nunchucks away. We need martial arts versus martial arts. So he goes to like digging through names that he has and he calls up some people. And I didn't realize Chuck Norris This is what he's known for. I've heard of that name 10,000 times, but I'm like, who is that? I don't know who that man is. This is where he really, like, his career, like, jump started, apparently. In this movie, his name is Colt, and he was sent to beat up our guy Tong, beat up Bruce Lee. And I'm gonna kick it like Bruce Lee. Now I really get that quote from NCT as well. Like, oh my god, so many things are coming full circle for me. That was my first NCT album I ever bought. Like, whoa, so many things are coming full circle. So in the final fight, spoiler alert, Tong lures Colt to fight him in the fucking Coliseum. They were actually able to do this in the Coliseum? How rich was Bruce Lee at this point? I'm pretty sure he was already well known and well liked, but like, oh my god. Can I fight in the Coliseum? Like, how much does that cost? Like, the budget. You could probably like buy a town. You could probably buy a state with the budget you had back in the day to go do a scene in the Coliseum. And it was like a 10-minute long scene. They were running all throughout that bitch. Are you kidding me? I bow down to you, Bruce Lee. And the gag at the end is the big like twist is that the uncle slash owner that hired Tong is the one who is working with the crime boss on the low. Like, you did that for what? He conspired this whole plan all along, but didn't really think it would work out that well. So, good job at underestimating yourself and other people's abilities. So, anyway, during the final fight, Tong has the advantage and he's like whooping ass. And he basically ends Colt because Colt was like, no, I ain't going out sad. I'm gonna try my best, but like, you know what? Just let me lie here. I lost. You win. You are like the ultimate. You reign supreme. And Colt passes away. He got kung fu to death. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I was going to say I would never live that down, but I'd be gone. So there would be no life left to live after that. So where do I put this movie? Would I watch it again? I would. There were some slow parts. I can appreciate build up, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not just here for the fights, but there were just some parts where I just didn't really care. It was okay. It was good though. It was a good movie. It's a good film. There was a good storyline. There was a good flow. I would recommend it for some people, but not for all. And I think this movie, if it didn't already get some awards, does deserve some, but not for me. So it's going in its award season somewhere. Props to you. After this, we started our wedding unit, which is what I wrote my comparative essay on because these were some of the best movies we got, y'all. I love a wedding film. I love a rom com, and that's what it was giving. Especially this first one that we watched called The Wedding Banquet. This movie is centered around a man named Wei Tung, and it has that classic overbearing mother trope. The mom feels like he's at an age where he should be married by now because she thinks he's single, so she keeps signing him up to matchmaking services. If my mother did that, I'm sorry, I would have to cut her off. You're doing entirely too much. But she's like, I want grandkids, I want a daughter in law, I want this, I want that. You need to get married. So she just can't help herself. She could, but she just doesn't want to. He's not really fighting back. He says he doesn't like it, but he's not like, Mom, stop. He's doing that. Well, no, maybe it's some other time. No. Like, dude, stand up. But the shock of the century is it turns out he actually does have a partner. It's just that his partner is a man. In the 90s, we actually have some gays in these movies, y'all. Well, okay, Zoe was a lesbian in Irma Vep, but we actually have a gay couple. I should clarify. Gay couple, our first gay couple in these films. We all cheered, we all applauded, we did. So hearing the title, you might be like, who's getting married then? Like, this is the 90s. The gays couldn't get married yet. And honestly, the gays might not be able to get married in the next 5 years. Ooh, sorry, that's not funny. But like, at least there was a period. I don't even want to think of the state of the world right now. Let's just keep it cute. I love this movie, so let's just keep it cute, okay? So you might be like, where's the wedding coming in? Well, that's when we meet another character. Wei Wei comes in because Wei Tong is her landlord, right? And in order to prevent her from being deported back to mainland China, because she like can't pay her bills, he ends up coming up with a plan with her. He conspires a plan for them to get married so she can get her a green card and so his parents can get off of his back and just be like, see, look, I do have a wife. I was just keeping it a secret. I love shit like this. I really do. I can't help myself. Some people call it corny, some people call it lame, predictable. I live. So basically they weren't just satisfied with hearing that he had a wife, they had to come meet her, which I mean, I kind of am on his parents' side, Mr. and Mrs. Gao on this one because like if I was close to my kid and then they moved all the way to the US and they didn't even tell me that they were about to get married and I never met the person, not even once, I'd be a little hurt too. So I feel you on this regard, but not always. Because Mama be doing a lot. You'll see. She does a lot. So they end up flying last minute from Taiwan to New York, which is where, this film is set in. I didn't say that, my bad. They're in New York. So, like, landlord, apartment, New York. So Wei Tung's boyfriend Simon has to pretend to be his roommate. And they were roommates. Like, oh my god, this is a tale as old as time, but like I just love to see it in film. So you might be like, okay, now we get like there's gonna be a wedding, but like where does the banquet part come in? So at first, since it was so last minute, they just decided to like impromptu get married at the courthouse. And the mom, Mrs. Gao, was like very heartbroken, disappointed. And I mean, I can't say I blame her. Like, damn, I flew all the way out here from Taiwan and y'all are telling me you're getting married and it's in a courthouse? No cake? No nothing? No dance? No traditions? No nothing? I'd be a little butthurt too, I can't lie. But then when they go to dine in the restaurant afterwards, one of the gal's old friends comes up and hears that, our dude just got married. And he's like, you had no reception? You had no big party? Like, what? We can't have that. I know a guy that like works at this like hall where they host all types of events. I'll book you a room. I'm not gonna spoil it all for you, but like you gotta check it out. Like I'm not very familiar with Chinese culture. I mean, don't judge a book by its cover, but like so I didn't really know what their wedding traditions were or what it looked like, but it was nice. I liked it. It was fun. And like even before when they give you like the cards of money and Mrs. Gao was like putting her dress on Weiwei and everything, that was a sweet moment. It was very cute. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil what happens after that, except there was a big oopsie because the friends were like, hey, y'all should just how do I say consummate the marriage? So I guess I did just tell you what happens, but like do they keep it? Do they not keep it? What about the gay boyfriend Simon? I don't know. I guess we'll just have to watch this movie and find out because it was so good. It was so good, you guys. Or maybe you'll just have to watch the remake that's currently in production right now. So, number 5, we got another remake to add. It's future, but like it's for sure. It's like a definite thing. Bowen Yang's gonna be in it. I think Lily Gladstone's gonna be in it, and somebody else. So yeah, it's happening for sure. Where do I rank this movie? I watched it twice. Once because I needed to, and once afterwards for the comparative essay. But do I want to watch it a third time? Oh, absolutely. I'm obsessed with this movie. Like, if I ever find a group of like queer people, I want to be like, have you ever seen this? If not, let me put you on. It's just too good. It's like it's a queer classic, I'm sure, somewhere. It should be if it's not. One thing I really liked about this movie too is that it was set and actually filmed in New York. New York is very expensive to film in. This movie didn't have the biggest budget, I know, because I had to do all that research for that goddamn essay. Props to them for actually being on location. Most of the time they just go to Cleveland, like Ohio rep, period. But like, that's not New York. I can tell. I can always tell. So yeah, I like the authenticness, the authenticity. That's what it is. The authenticity of it. I promise I'm a writer, y'all. I promise. And you know what? I have to say this, the acting wasn't really the best, but it kind of made it feel like a reality show. You know what I mean? It feels like I was there in the moment watching all this bullshit go down. So good. You know what? Hell yeah. Because did I expect to love this coming in? No, but I was obsessed with it. So we saw what a Taiwanese/Chinese wedding looks like. Now we're about to see some Indian traditions come into play with Monsoon wedding. Woo! So not only do I love a rom-com, not only do I love a wedding movie, but I love a messy one with a messy family. And this family, oh my god, everybody has some shit going on. I mean, seriously. So yeah, they're getting prepared for a Punjabi wedding for the main character, Aditi. She has an arranged marriage set up by her parents that she is just not down for. She's not having it. And you want to know why? Because she's sleeping with her boss. She's having an affair with her married boss. Now, she's not the one that's, having a boyfriend on the side. It's he. He's the one that's married. So he's more in the wrong than she is. But like, sister, like, this wedding was no surprise. Like, you knew it was coming. And you're still messing with this man, like, weeks before the whole family comes into town. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in an arranged marriage either, but, like, your choice besides the man you're supposed to marry is a man that's married and cheating on his wife with you? And she's also not down for this because after she gets married, she's going to have to move to the US with that man and, like, leave her whole family. Now, that would tear me up too. But if that was the case, I would be spending more time with them, not with this dirty ass man, He ain't even all that. Like, girl, come on. You can do better. You can do better. Anyway, now it's time for the multiple family members to pull up. So let's do our introductions. Rhea is Aditi's like closest cousin. Oh my god, I love a cousin bond. There's almost like nothing better than that. Like, oh, I miss hanging out with my cousins. Ever since I moved, I just don't see him that often. But we had some good ass memories. Like when I get money, I gotta go back and visit so I can like drive around and stuff. Like, yeah, I miss him bad. I miss him, y'all. And then Tej is Aditi's uncle-in-law, and he basically saved the family a while ago when they were going broke. So everyone like adores him and like does whatever he wants. And then Varun is Aditi's younger brother, and because he likes to dance, and get this, he likes to watch cooking shows. His parents assume he's gay. Girl, and they basically want to send his ass off to boarding school because they're like, you need to go somewhere to learn how to be more of a man. Okay. This movie, though, also focuses on non family members. There's PK Dubé, legend, icon. They have a family maid, and her name is Alice. So you get to see some like wealth disparity come into play. I love a film that has a message. And it's not even like in your face. You just see the difference in class. You just see it. Because like their wedding planning is shit at like their house, or at least parts of it at their house. And you can just see them be like, wow, like I wish I could afford this. I wish I had that. I wish I had this. Because this film's a lot of fun, but like when you peel back some layers, there's more stuff. There's commentary. Some drama ensues with Aditi and her man, her new man and her old man. Her old man basically like ditches her and is like, yeah, I'm never gonna claim you. Like we gotta stop this. Girl, stupid hoe how you figure. Like I hate to be the one to tell you, but like come on now. And so she's like, yeah, I gotta cut this off. And then her new man, I forget his name. It's like her aunt or something. They end up having a big fight at the end, like towards the climax, because she admitted to what she was doing in secret. And he was basically like, well, girl, I don't even want to marry you no more. Like they end up getting along, forgiving each other. They're like, let's just start fresh. They're great. But then something that they were building up very discreetly in the film, which I have to applaud because I love that. Because I noticed something was off, but I wasn't really like paying attention because it was a focus, but it wasn't the main focus until it was. But like if you caught some stuff, you would knew something was off here. Are they gonna address it or no? Should I forget or no? But it was good if you didn't forget because Tej, the one that like saved the family, is, how do I say this for YouTube guidelines? Is grooming allowed on here? He was basically grooming one of the little cousins named Aaliyah. And Miss Rhea, Aditi's closest cousin wants to go to college in the US, can't really pay for it. Tej was offering her to pay for it. She peeps that and she's like, oh, hell no, you are not getting away with this again. Nasty, 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 nasty. It really be your own family sometimes. Like, ugh. Filthy, nasty, disgusting. And he's married and everything. And this is a child. Your family member you're messing with. I can't even get into it, but the type of stuff he was making her do. And she was just kind of like explaining it nonchalant. And Rhea was like, he do what with you? He do what? So she outs him to the whole family and they don't really believe her. They're like, you're just saying this because you're unmarried and you're jealous. Excuse me? You're saying she's making this accusation up because she's not married? No, something about that don't sit right with me. Sorry, but something about that. If you want to know how this film ends, because I think it has a very good ending, I suggest you watch it. I'm putting this movie in its award season somewhere just because The Wedding Banquet was the better wedding film, in my opinion. This one was great, but I don't think it has as much rewatchability as The Wedding Banquet does. Now we move on to the horror unit led by Nosferatu. Now, this definitely sounds familiar because on Christmas Day they released a new version of this, which I haven't seen much about it because this isn't really my bag, which I was scared for. I was like, oh my god, we have to watch horror movies? 3? We watch more of these than wedding films? Are you kidding me? Hated that. Wanted to consider dropping, but it was way too late, and I was just like, you know what? They might be interesting. Just don't watch them at night. That's remake number, what are we on? I lost count. Number 6? Yeah. They just can't help themselves. But I'll give them this one. This movie came out like 1922. So that's like 100 years later. If you are going to remake something and put your own little spin on it, because that's what I heard what they did in this new one, then I'll let it slide. So, okay, it's not that egregious as some of these other remakes. I hate when a remake is like 10 years apart. Like, are you kidding me? 10 years. I could not finish this movie. I couldn't get through it. It's a silent film and it's black and white. Don't hate it because it's silent and black and white. But it's also just, again, lame and boring. And I just could not stand looking at Count Orlok Oh my god, he gave me. I know it's supposed to be like that, German expressionism or whatever, but I just can't look at him. Like, it gave me nightmares. I know that's the point. He's supposed to be monstrous. He's not supposed to look normal with his claws and his ears and his look and his tall figure. But I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Forgive me. Although I will say there were some scenes that were framed well. I kind of went on YouTube and just found certain scenes to write about because one of our discussion posts were like talking about the framing of certain scenes and like the camera work. So I was like, damn, I have to actually pay attention to the shit. So I found some scenes that were actually really good. So I'll give it up to the director. It's a well filmed movie, but it's not entertaining to me. To me. So that one scene where the main character Thomas, who's the one that like went out to go work for Count Orlok in the first place, like all by himself in this like big ass castle, this creepy castle. But there's this one scene where Thomas found out like Count Orlok is kind of sus. He's like reading through stuff. He's like noticing things in this castle are weird. And then he's in this room by himself. No windows, no escape, and he like opens the door. Oh my god, this is so creepy. And like all the way in the back of the hallway, it's like yellow lights. You can just see the shadow of Count Orlok just like standing watching him. Oh my god, it's so creepy. Oh. And then he closes the door and he's like, fuck, I'm caught. What do I do now? He's looking for a place to escape. He hides under the beds, but there's nowhere to go. And he knows now that like, this is a vampire. So he's like, shit, what do I do? He just hides under the covers, poor thing. Then you just see the door crack open. I can't do it. I couldn't do it. I was so unsettled. I was like, this is too much for me. This is scary for me. I hate that. That was great directing. I just never have been a fan of vampires. Like, I never watched Twilight. Even though the main character was named Bella, like I am, I just didn't care. Do you know how rare that is for me? Every time I see someone's named Bella in a show, I'm like, put me on. Where are they? Where are they? It's a pretty common name, but not really in film all the time. So I'm like, bring all the Bellas to the front. Like, come on now, we're the baddest. This movie, simply put, I'm going to sleep. I did not care. I did not watch more than like 15 minutes of it. I couldn't take it. I'm sorry. Could not care. You could not force me to watch this movie. I'm sure other YouTubers are going to make videos comparing the 1922 version to like the 2024 version, but I could not care enough. I'm not going to waste camera space for that, so you won't get that from me. Also, if you made it this far, babe, subscribe so I can buy a new phone. Like, please, I need a new phone. Please, I need a new phone. The Horror of Dracula was our next movie, and honestly, was not excited for more vampires, but it could always be creepier. Like, it always could have been worse, so I'm gonna be thankful we got more vampires and that they actually talked this time. The movie starts with Jonathan Harker. He pulls up to Dracula's house, kind of same premise as Nosferatu. You know, he got offered a job, he got offered to work, and in this case, he's gonna be the librarian. I don't remember what Thomas in the original was supposed to do. Maybe he was the same thing. And when he's alone in his room, we realize that he ain't no librarian. He's not equipped for that. He's not built for that. He's actually a vampire hunter. I live, I live, I live, I live, I live. He is fearless. Could not be me, but like he's going straight to the source. He's like, you know what? I don't need a team. I don't need an army. Fuck the big three. It's just big me. Commend you for that. Because you braver than I am. A vampire and me alone? I'd rather not. Basically, he goes downstairs in the middle of the night, just like searching for Dracula or whatever. And this lady comes out screaming that she's been like kidnapped and stuff, and that like Dracula's doing all these terrible things to her, and that he needs to leave or that they need to escape together. I forget exactly what she said, but she was basically like screaming and crying, begging for help. And then all of a sudden, when she gets real close to Jonathan, she tries to bite him. Girl, this movie, like the first few minutes of this movie were tea. I was like, oh, this is not what I expected at all. Like, you are subverting every thought I had of where this could go so quickly. He did actually get bit by her, and he passed out, and he wakes up in his room, and he's like, uh-oh, like, he probably went through my stuff, didn't he? He writes in his journal like one more time and then like throws it out his window. And then he goes into a crypt. I didn't really know what a crypt was, I could assume, but now I know what a crypt is. And I'm not into that. Like, I don't like the vibes in here. It's spooky, spooky ooky. I'm not a fan. I like cute stuff. Like, look at my shirt. This is what I'm into. Okay, that's me. Crypt keepers, crypt vampires, none of that. I'm not down for it. But anyway, he is. So he goes in there and he has a stake in his hand. And rookie mistake, he goes for the lady. And I mean, I guess she bit him, so you want to get her first. But like, Dracula is who you were really after, King. So he goes in there, stakes her, ends her life. And then when he goes to the next coffin over, Dracula gone. Apparently he used his like vampire speed and dipped out that room. The vampire, since he has the upper hand now, he locks Jonathan in that room, and that is the last we see of him. I just want to say this. I love a film that starts off where you think this person is the main character. Like they're the first person we see. They got to be the main character. They said, "Fuck that, flip it and reverse it." He's not the main character. He's gone. This was just like the prologue basically. This was just the intro. Scream did the exact same thing with Drew Barrymore, all over the posters, all over everywhere, and she was in only like the first 10 minutes. That's so gaggy. Anyway, Jonathan's old friend Dr. Van Helsing is like, where my guy at? He comes back into town or something, and then he goes to like Jonathan's fiance Lucy, and he's like, have y'all seen Jonathan? Like, is he good? So the whole plot is Dr. Van Helsing is going to look for him. So he's now like our main protagonist. Who would have thought? Who would have thunked it? All of a sudden, Lucy gets a little sick, and it turns out that Dracula went to their house. He posted up and he bit her. Nobody knew though. She didn't even know what was going on. After this, they're like, okay, we need to go find him ASAP. Dr. Van Helsing and I think Arthur, who's is Lucy's brother. Yeah, he's Lucy's brother, not Jonathan's brother. Lucy's brother pull up to Dracula's house to go end him. They're like, no more games. We're coming after you. We gonna find you so you can run and tell that, homeboy. That was such an iconic meme. That was so good. I should not have been singing that little song in fifth grade though, but it is what it is. Like that was my childhood. That was Antoine Johnson, a legend. Anyway, see how distracted I get? It's a disease. Basically, they end up doing it and they seize the day, and it was kind of cool how they did it. You should watch it. I mean, it's been done before. Fight scene was really good. It was tea, and then they win. So you should go check the ending out at least. One thing I really remember from this movie that we also had to write a discussion post on was the use of a color, and I picked red, but I didn't pick red just because vampires, blood, blah, blah, blah. No, like if I can find the scene, I'll show you. 'Cause there was this one scene where Dr. Van Helsing was wearing a red suit and he was holding Jonathan's red notebook. And then he was like sitting in like a chair with a red cushion on a red carpet or something. And he was all angry and everything. Like you see it, you see the vision. I wrote about that and I was like, who else is doing it like me? Nobody. I bet you nobody else clocked that. They might have, but like they didn't write it like I could. So big ups to the costume design and the set designers. Like you did your big one with that. You ate. I'm putting this movie in almost noteworthy because there were some parts where I was like enjoying it, rocked it, living, and there were other parts where I was like a vampire. I was just cold and dead because I was like, I'm just bored. Towards the middle, I think that's like a psychology thing. We remember stuff more at the beginning and the end, but like I just didn't really care too much about the family. Vampires again are just not my thing. They are very limited supernatural beings. They're just not that interesting to me. Next up, we have Ringu or Ring, and oh my gosh, this may sound familiar to you because The Ring is a remake after this one. This is the Japanese original that we watched, so we don't have to actually add another remake to our list, to our counter, because this was first, and this is the one we watched. Like, whoa. How come I've never heard of this version? I never knew the one that came out in the US wasn't the original one. That's weird to me. Like I've never heard a single mention of this Japanese version. But let me give you my thoughts on it and let me give you a little plot summary. Also, I don't know if the version of events are the exact same in the US and this Japanese version, but I'm not going to find out. Not gonna find out. But basically, in this version, we start with these girls at like a sleepover. They kind of do what Dracula did, where you thought they could be the main character, but no. They're at this sleepover and they start talking about like this little urban legend or whatever, where you watch this unlabeled VHS tape and you get a curse. And the girls, of course, were like, girl, that's stupid. Like, that's ain't. Like, what you think this is? You think I'm dumb? Like, you think I'm a kid? I'm gonna believe that? That's a lie. And also, not only do you get a curse, but you get a ring. Like, I was wondering why they called it Ring for the longest, but it's because the phone rings. The phone. Like, I'm dumb for that. Like, like I just now. I never thought about that. Like, even as I was in this class watching it, I didn't realize why it was called Ring until literally seconds ago. Yeah, I'm dumb for that. No, I am. Whatever. I'm good at other stuff. I'm smart at other stuff. Most of the time. I don't know. So they watched that tape, and little did those girls know that a week later, they would no longer be with us because, yeah, you only have 7 days to like break the curse. And they didn't break the curse. They didn't think about it. They didn't think it was like a real thing. Especially because, like, when you pick up the phone, I don't think anyone answers. You just get the ring. And you're like, okay, that's weird. So Reiko ends up being the main character, and she a baddie. Like, she's gorge. Like, I support it. We love final girls. Like, yes. And she's the aunt of one of the girls that were at that sleepover that passed away mysteriously. And she's like, I'm about to investigate what the fridge is going on, because I don't, this doesn't make sense to me. Something's up. Like, there's got to be more to the story. Like, there's no way. So Reiko watches it, and when I tell you I have that brightness all the way down when she watched that tape, girl, because I was like, I'm not getting jump scared today. I'm not about to cry. I'm not about to have nightmares. We're not doing that. But honestly, from what I saw, there was nothing scary on it. There was just this one shot at the end of like a well, and it all makes sense later. You know what happens next? She gets that phone call, and just like that, she's cursed. So she goes to her ex-husband's house to go visit her son and like talk about all this, and she made a copy. And she played that copy for him, and it was the same exact video. It was the same thing. And apparently her son was in the room while they watched it. I didn't catch this the first time, but her son was in the room while they watched it. So he's cursed too. And now she's like, oh my gosh, like I have to break this curse or we're all screwed. Like, I don't know if it's real or not, but like I ain't trying to find out. And girl, that's me too. Like, girl, that's me too. We do not play around with that. The white folks play around with this stuff too much. We don't got time for that. We don't got time for that. I'm sorry. Her ex-man Ryuji go on a week-long journey to figure this stuff out before it's too late. And they keep having like visions and everything. You know, so they're like, okay, we're getting more clues. But I guess the other people ignored all the clues and they were just like, well, that's weird. Or we're just pissing themselves and not doing anything about it. The girl's name in this version was Sadoko, and I think in the US version it was like Samara. So there are some similarities there. Her mother had like some psychic abilities or something. People didn't really believe it. They were making fun of her. And one day Sadoko had enough and she used her like powers on them that I don't know if she can control them or not, but she basically ended a man, and her powers make it seem like somebody at times could like chop suey. If you know that reference, you're a baddie. But like, I can't say the word on here, I don't think. But you know, makes them look like they did something to themselves and their lives are over. If you know what I mean. So like, that's crazy. Like that's a insane power. Like chop suey, that's a deep cut. My brain really, she really went there. If you know, you know. The researcher that was with the psychic mother hits her in the head with a shovel. She falls down the well, and he traps her in that well. That is evil. Like, oh my god. I was like, why you do that to this little girl? This was a child, by the way. This was a child. Sadoko was a child. So they end up finding her in the well. She's a skeleton at this point. And then, 7 days pass, and they thought, we found her. We figured it out. We solved the curse, right? Well, the next day, Ryuji's TV turns on all of a sudden, and that's where you get the legendary scene of the girl freaking crawling out the TV. Oh my god. It was shot beautifully, but like that was terrifying. Whoever thought of that? Whoever thought of that? Wow. You know how many references there are? That was iconic to watch. I was terrified of what was going to happen or what she looked like. Horrifying, by the way. I think it's called Yurei. We had to write a discussion post about that, like the myths of like the Yureis, where you got like the white dress on and like the black hair all up in your face. Sogi did it that one time, that one little walk. If you're a Red Velvet fan, that's what that was. She was mimicking one of them, and they're all like vengeful. They don't really care if you figure them out. They don't really care if you showed them love or like we're, I don't know, hoping they get better or praying for them. They're gonna come after you, girl. They are vengeful spirits. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn about you, girl. So the reason why, spoiler alert, the reason why Reiko is still alive and Ryuji's not is because she made a copy of the tape. So that's how you beat the curse. You have to make a copy. That's tea though. Like, wow. And she didn't even do it on purpose. She just was like, I need extra. She was like, let me make sure this original doesn't get lost nowhere. They didn't even have to go on that journey. It meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. She made the copy. She was good no matter what. Does that mean her son died? I think the second movie, there's a sequel, I think, and that was about her saving her son. I guess kids get an extended edition. I don't know. Not sure, but yeah, I'm not watching it. Somebody tell me how it goes. But I'm putting this one in its award season somewhere because it was actually good. Not gonna watch it again, but like I remember everything that happens. It was brilliant. It was great. A few years later, you got a US spinoff. That's how you know your idea is good because they steal shit. That's how you know your shit was good. Although this movie is a little spooky and I felt a little lost at times with the whole superpower thing and like the memories and stuff. I don't really like flashbacks too much. It just kind of takes me out of it. They're necessary for something like this and for other things, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. I just only wish some stuff was clearer. I don't like doing mental gymnastics, but out of all the movies that we had to watch, this was not one of the worst. So good job, Ring. Good job. Ding, ding, ding. Ring, ring, ring. Okay, y'all, we are finally free. We have escaped our horror unit. Thank the Lord in heavens above. Thank you. We are free at last. Free at last. We have entered our final unit, the road trip genre. I love a good road trip movie. Cars is my favorite Disney Pixar movie. Like, nobody's touching Cars. Actually, Wreck It Ralph did for a while, but then I started getting into Cars again, and I was like, this movie can't be touched. And those both have to deal with vehicles, road trips, vehicles. You could say traveling through other arcade games is like a road trip in a way. Is it not? Maybe this is just like my thing. I need to make a road trip movie. I think this is my calling. Eventually, maybe. That's not what I'm working on right now, but eventually, maybe, you know? Like, I didn't realize I enjoyed it so much until right now, until this moment. But let's get into the first road trip movie we had to watch, which is called Motorcycle Diaries. And this movie came out the year I was born, so very special to me, no matter what. The film is about this 23-year-old man named Che, or that's his nickname, who is fine. He's very handsome to me. But that's besides the point. That has nothing to do with the plot, but I just had to put that out. Well, actually, the girls flock to him, which does get him in trouble a little bit. But that's not like the main point, okay? He's not going to get girls. He's a very sweet man. He's a medical student that wants to like either cure or fix and help people with leprosy. I didn't know what that was. I googled it. Do not Google it. It looks disgusting. Don't Google it. It's not worth it. Don't let the curiosity get to you, girl. I thought it would be like some kind of like leg disease or something because I heard lep and I was like, "Oh, it has to do with your leg." I just thought maybe I don't know what I thought it would be, but don't look at it. And eventually, at the end of the day, based off of what he learned during this like journey, mind you, this is like a real life story turned into a film. So he ends up becoming this like revolutionary after taking an expedition across parts of South America. Whoa, he must have seen a lot. And as we see, he did see a lot and learned a lot about a lot of injustices and differences in class. And, it's some real shit. And he goes on this expedition with his friend Alberto, who's a bit older than him. He's like a mentor figure. And they go on a motorcycle. I forget what that word is in Spanish, but that would have been cool if I remembered. I don't remember though. They both come from a pretty privileged background considering this is 1952 when this film is set, and able to go on a whole journey. But they end up doing a lot of good with it because the whole point of this originally was that they wanted to go to a leprosy colony and help people there and like tend to them and volunteer. So they're like good people, they're very good people. And for them being like so privileged, they know some shit's going on, but this was the first time in their life that they actually saw some shit and witnessed it firsthand. Then they were like, "Oh, we like this is crazy. Like how is this possible? Like we need to do something about this because there's a lot of struggles people are going through with their wealth and their health." What's changed in 2024 or 2025? Not much. Not much. You think it would, but no. At the end we get a brief little like you know how they do like the years later or this is what happened to them in real life. You get one of those at the end. And guess like I had to like rewind it 3 times because I just did not believe what I had read. Che in 1967 was taken out, I'll say, by the CIA. By the CIA because I guess he was being a little too radical for them in the jungle, in the Bolivian jungle. And they were like, "You're doing a lot." What was the CIA doing over there? I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but they found out about him and they were like, "You sir, you know more. We get rid of you now. Bye." And that's how he passed away. I support his vision though. He was just trying to help people. I mean, maybe they cut out a lot of stuff. I mean, that is a pretty big time skip. 1952, 1967. How radical did he get? How guerrilla did he get? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm afraid to look it up now. I don't want to be put on the list. You know what I'm saying? So, in terms of their journey, they started out in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I love that. Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires. I think that's beautiful. I really do. So, they're from Argentina. Then they traveled through the Andes Mountains to Chile and then to Venezuela, if I remember correctly. I think that was the order. Don't really know my geography anymore. That class was like 3 years ago. It's gone. I had every country on the map memorized, you guys, and mountain ranges and lakes and bodies of water. Yeah, I don't know why I individually called out lakes, but that was the first thing that popped into my mind. So yeah, I used to know the whole world almost. And then they went to Machu Picchu, Peru, which was a big turning point for them because they were like looking at like all the ancient architecture and they're like, why are they making cities like Lima when Machu Picchu is right here? Like, why are you tearing this down to look like everybody else? And honestly, that's so real. They clocked it too because they were like, why are you messing with all these indigenous cities and civilizations to make it the same basic ass architecture with the same amount of pollution everywhere else? At least they kept some of it still today, but probably just for tourism purposes. If it wasn't, that would have been long gone, which is very sad to think about. But I mean, tell me I'm lying. Like, people put profit over everything. And then lastly, they reached their final destination, their original destination, which was the leper colony in Peru. That was their like planned destination all along, but they learned a lot on the journey, you know. And they wanted to help a lot of people that just didn't have a lot of money, and they wanted to use their knowledge and expertise to give back, but also on the way they wanted to have a fun little adventure. This one is going in almost noteworthy because of the entertainment value. It was kind of lagging for me. There were parts where I skipped. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I did skip around a little bit. I skipped a little bit because it was just a little bit long. I like how they showed different places in each country or city they visited, but there were just some scenes that I didn't really find necessary. The second road trip movie we watched was Smoke Signals. So this is a late 90s film that I've never heard about in my life. But it's about like these two Native American teenage boys, right? First of all, I just want to say that I appreciate that this was like written and I think actually directed by a Native American person. Like, yes. Especially written though. Like, thank you for giving them a platform to actually use their own voice and tell like their own story, because we know how often POC and especially like Native Americans were not allowed to tell their own story. So I'm glad that they had like a big film to do that. And you know what? I'm glad that it included stereotypes that were clearly to like make fun of the people that believe them. Like, there were stereotypes in there, but it was kind of like to poke fun at them. That's how you make people realize, oh, that is dumb, isn't it? Because why do we think like that? And they know that we think like that and they make fun of us for it. Like, yes, yes. Well, I won't put myself in there because I have no issue with Native American people, but you know, some people, idiots, do. So we have another coming of age film on our hands. I'm starting to notice a bit of a correlation here. Che, like I said, he was young, he was 23. These boys are teenagers. We love to see it. We love to see it. I love coming of age film because I'm about that age myself. So yeah, very relatable to me, even though they're Native American and I will never know what life on a reservation is like. That's another thing they were trying to prove, that they can be relatable as well. So the main protagonists, Victor and Thomas, live on this reservation, and we start seeing parts of it at the beginning. It is very empty, which is sad because obviously we all know our history, right? But I like how they show like they have a lot of closeness within this community, which is always nice. But also, people there be having beef too. They don't all get along. Victor and Thomas do not like each other. Well, Thomas has no issue with Victor, but Victor has issues with Thomas. Oh, I love that. Like a one-sided beef that's not stupid, that actually you'll see why in a second, but like, oh, I love. Basically, these boys go way back, and so do their families, because Victor's father, Arnold, rescued Thomas as a baby because he was in a burning house. The parents unfortunately couldn't make it, but they threw Thomas out the window and Arnold caught them. And this was on the 4th of July, and you might be like, why am I saying that? Well, it matters because it was caused by fireworks. But since Arnold like saved him, as in Thomas is like, this is my hero. I love this man. Like, everything he does, like, this is my idol. Meanwhile, Arnold's actual son, Victor, is like, screw this guy, I hate this man. And Thomas just doesn't get it because he's always telling these nice stories about him and like literally idolizes him. Like, he tells false stories just to make this man look good, and Victor is like, dude, shut up. Because apparently Arnold was an alcoholic. We find that out. Because at first I'm sure we were all on Thomas's side because that's all we knew. But then we find out he's an alcoholic and he did some domestic B stuff to Victor's mother, and that I do not support. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, we don't do that. I don't support you. I don't care. Thank you for saving a baby, but like, ooh, like, you're still a shitty person. I'm sorry. I don't care what y'all gotta say. Like, that's shitty to me. And then eventually, not only did he do all that, but he eventually just left the family and never came home. Now the film really jumpstarts when we find out that Arnold has passed away, and the mother is making Victor go get his ashes from Arizona, his new home. So I forget where they were at in this movie originally, but basically, obviously they have a road trip. This is where the road trip comes in, right? Right. The mother not only makes Victor go, but she makes him bring Thomas with him. So now he's like, oh my gosh, I have to spend more time with this dude. Lame. This dude sucks. And then this is when we see them on the bus trying to like do the whole stereotype thing because Victor, I guess, looks more like the stereotypical Native American that a lot of people picture. He has the long hair, and he even said it himself, you have to have a stoic expression, look more serious, you have to look like a warrior and all that. And he's trying to like mold Thomas into that because Thomas is like nerdy. He's got the glasses on, he's got like the cute little braids, and he's always wearing these nice little like vests and nice attire. And Victor is more like the sporty, down to earth, like stuff that you would see out in everyday society. Like that's the type of stuff he wears. And he's like, no, in order to be like a real Native American, you have to look and dress like this. And he tries to make like Thomas do it. It's funny because it's like that's how some people really think for real. But I'm glad Thomas was like, you know what? Fuck all that noise. I'm about to be myself. And he went back to the glasses and the braids. Victor's confronted with all these memories and learning new things about his father, learning more about his past and everything, and his whole new life without him. Like, ooh, that's tough. That is tough. So here the boys meet Susie, and she's like Arnold's like boo thing or whatever. I don't think they were married. She's telling more and more things about Arnold that Victor had no idea about, and he's like, wow, like I hate and love this man at the same time. And that is so relatable. Fist bump if you have daddy issues. Unfortunately, it's very common. Unfortunately. So he's like, damn, do I love or hate this guy? Like I love him more than I thought I would, and I'm kind of like wishing I had more time with him, but like he's gone, what do I do? And he's also like he did abandon me, so like the hate will always be there, but it's just like it was coming in waves. He was like feeling happy, and then he was angry, and then he was happy and satisfied, and then he was like, I can't take this shit no more. I feel like that was very real. Susie drops the bomb that Victor's father is the one that started the fire in the first place because he was drunk and he was trying to mess with fireworks in the house, and there you go. That was awkward. But in the end, the boys became a lot closer because of this trip, and it was a lovely story. I think smoke signals should go in award season somewhere. I feel like stories like this definitely need to be told, and I did enjoy the movie and I would watch it again, but it just wasn't one of my like favorites. I'm not like rushing to watch it again. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad that I've had that experience. It was lovely. But it's just not like my fave. That's just all it is. But I really like how this film set up why they have different perspectives on how they view the same character. I love when a movie or a show does that. And they both have very valid reasons. Like, Thomas would not be here if Arnold didn't save his life. So if that was me, I would be like, well, I love that man no matter what. But if I was Victor, I would be like, screw that guy. So, like, they're both valid. Yes. I feel like not enough movies and shows do that where both sides are like equally valid. But I just like the other one that comes up next so much more in terms of a road trip movie and in terms of one of the best movies I've seen, maybe ever. So we're going out with a bang, y'all. The last movie we had to watch was Thelma and Louise. Now, I have heard this film referenced a million times before, and I'm like, who in the hell are these ladies? Like, who are these bitches? I've heard them 1,000 times. When people say ride or die, they're like, Bonnie and Clyde or Thelma and Louise. And I'm like, I don't know who these last two are. So I was finally like, oh, we're watching this? Oh, this was like a 90s movie? Now I get it though. Like, I have awakened. I wanted more, and there's no more. There's no more. Rarely do I ever say that deserves a sequel. There's no way this could have had a sequel. But like a prequel maybe. Or like a AU, an alternate universe. Give me that. But instead I guess I might just have to like read fanfic or something. I don't know. Or write my own. No, I don't have time for all that. I don't have time for all that. I'm already working on other things. I gotta focus. So this movie starts off with Thelma, who's a housewife, and her husband, per usual, is a jerk. Housewives aren't treated the best, historically speaking. Like, they just aren't. People act like they don't matter. She gets a phone call from her friend Louise, who's working at the restaurant, and she's like, bitch, you need a break. And she's finally like, you know what? Maybe I should get a break. Like, I'm being treated like crap. I never get to go out and have fun. Like, what's wrong with taking a weekend to myself? Maybe she should have took another weekend to herself. But Louise convinced her to go on a vacation, so they're going on a little friendship vacay. Thelma tells her man that they're going on a fishing trip in like the woods or something, or like in a mountain or whatever. And that's not true at all. They went to a bar. They're popping out. Why not? They're cute. While they're there, there's this handsome boy named Harlan who turns out to be a creep because he was getting Thelma all drunk, dancing with her all night, acting real sweet. And then eventually, Thelma got to a point where she was like, okay, I'm hammered. I need to go home. I need to go find my friend Louise who went to the bathroom. And she's like, yeah, this is a lot. Like, I'm married, you know. And Harlan's like, well, I don't care. I just want to have some fun. You know how boys are. They don't know what no means. He takes her outside and in the parking lot tries to R word her. The audacity, the boldness, the disgustingness of it all. That's revolting. That is extremely revolting. Louise comes out just in time and she whips out a pew pew on that man. And at first, she was just going to give like a warning shot, right? But then he was like, basically, nobody will care. No, I'm going to be able to do whatever I want anyway. You're missing out. He said something that really ticked her off. And then she actually like shot him for real. And he died. And this is where their road trip starts. It's very different. It's not a coming of age. They were like runaway criminals, even though I wouldn't have blamed them. That, in my opinion, that was self defense. In my opinion, that was self defense because what he said kind of seemed like a threat to both of them. But maybe that's just me. But yeah, their road trip starts out like this, and they're just like going. They don't even know where they're going. Louise comes up with a plan, and she's like, "Okay, let's just go to a hotel and let's just run away to Mexico. Don't tell nobody. We're out of here." And you want to know the sad part about all this? Thelma was like, "Why can't we just report it to the cops? Like they'll believe us if we just tell them what happened." And Louise was like, "Girl, you know they ain't gonna believe shit we say." You would think things would change since the early 90s, but they have not much. In fact, they might have gotten worse. I'm not sure. I wasn't alive in the 90s. Somebody let me know. But things have not gotten much better when it terms in terms of like the police believing victimized women. So yeah, there's no turning back now. They end up bringing Brad Pitt along for the ride because he was fine in this film. I didn't really understand the hype. I haven't really seen anything with him in it, but damn, I would have been a real big fan of him after this too. Like, ooh, he was serving. He was serving, and I think he had a cowboy hat on. I'm telling you, it makes the boys hotter. It does. It does. Ladies too, but boys especially. And then they realized bringing Brad Pitt along was a big mistake because Thelma was starting to fall for him because she's like, well, my man back home ain't shit. Harlan wasn't shit, but like you seem nice. Turns out he's a criminal, and he was playing her. And this is when she really loses it because he stole all of, well, I guess Louise's money, their money to escape to go to Mexico. He stole it. Because Thelma is kind of her fault, though. She was being a little too trusting. I get it. The dick was probably fire. And she just ended up blabbing everything. What was his name? JD or something? Stole that money from her. It's tough. Like the police are on their ass, and like that was Thelma's breaking point. She has had it with these men. She's like, I've been played one, two, three, four, five too many times. I'm sick of this. She loses it, and I love how. Okay, so at first she was well prim and proper. She was very cutesy, very dainty, very cutesy. By the end of it, she's very tomboy, borderline like butch femme. She's like crossing the border into butch because she just starts not giving a fuck. She doesn't care. Her whole hair changes up. Her fits change up. She's getting all tough. She's robbing people now. She goes to a gas station. She holds this man up. Like she just don't give a damn. She don't give a damn no more. She's like, looks, this is survival right here. I couldn't give two fucks. I have no man to impress. I'm gonna do me. I forgot for a second why this was. Why she didn't want to be like the perfect wife or perfect girl anymore. And it's because yo, she called her man up. And Louise is smart because I wouldn't have thought of that. But she was like, at this point in our journey, they probably tapped his phone. So don't give no information out. But basically, Thelma was like, hey, like, where you at? Like, I love you or whatever. And he wasn't paying her no attention. Oh, there was two calls. The first one she called, and she was like trying to get his attention and tell him what happened with Harlan. And he was paying attention to a football game. He didn't give a damn about her. And then the second time, she could tell that the phone was tapped and that he wasn't actually trying to see her again. He was just trying to get info out of her. He wasn't trying to help her out or nothing. Like, oh, screw that man, screw that man. And then later on, she really becomes unhinged because she like trapped a cop in a cop car because they were getting pulled over. And then they were like, oh no, we're speeding. We're going to get recognized once they like run our cards and they're going to realize this is a stolen car. And we're those girls that like are did a shoot and run or whatever it's called, a homicide and run. I don't know. They take his pew pew from him and like literally leave him in the trunk of a car to die and suffocate it out in the hot. I think they were near the Grand Canyon or something, some range. that had elevated, very elevated landforms. So I don't think it was the Grand Canyon, but it was something similar. This movie was so good. This movie was so good. And then I think about it, Louise's boyfriend that like gave her money was this like wannabe singer, but he was getting a little violent for me. He was getting a little too loud and aggressive when she turned down his proposal. Yeah, that's a no. You dodged a bullet, Miss Bam. And after that, he doesn't come up much more because it was really about these two girls being besties, being literal ride or dies. Like, it was them against the world. After all that, they were like, we really only have each other. We gotta stick together no matter what. So, yeah, shout out to two girls evading the law and being besties. Like, who's gonna be my. I think I'm more Thelma. Who's gonna be my Louise? You know? Who's gonna be my Louise? And then in the final few minutes, they're on this big landform and then they get cornered by the cops everywhere. There's helicopters, there's cars chasing after them. I won't tell you what led to that because you should go watch this and you'll see how it was deserved, but unfortunate that they did what they did, which like the last thing. Because they were evading the cops pretty well. I think they would have made it if they didn't do that one last thing. But again, another man pissed them off. So it was deserved, but that's when they ended up getting their location found and everything. And then like a gang of cops are on the scene telling them to give up and surrender. And they're like, we'd rather not. And they don't. Now, I won't say what happened, but you can assume. But I need you to see it because I need you to watch the scene. What happens after that? Because when I tell you my mouth hit the floor and like I sobbed and cried and cheered all at the same time, I did. I was sounding like white people when the plane lands. Like that was me. I was like, oh my God, thank God. I was clapping. I was crying. I was like holding on to somebody that wasn't there. I was like, thank God. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, you guys gotta watch this movie. Obviously, 10 out of 10. This is my favorite film that we watched. It actually beat The Wedding Banquet. I didn't think anything would, but it did. This was the best movie. They saved the best for last. Like, this movie is the definition of a femininomenon. It was just too good. I love the message, love the vibes, love the friendship. The way that all these men used them and played them and lied to them led to like so many big events happening in this movie is crazy. But is that not like real world shit though? Like, men do be driving women crazy sometimes. It's rarely the other way around. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I'm shocked I've never had this spoiled for me before. Like, I'm shocked I've never seen that ending before. Because everyone knows this movie, but I just have not seen it. So I'm glad it was a surprise. I wish I could watch it for the first time again, but if you haven't seen it, this is the one I recommend first. This movie was literally so amazing. It was brilliant. I haven't seen a lot of 90s movies because, like I said, I'm a modern hoe, but maybe if they're all this good of this quality, then I will. Like, how could I not? Recommend me some good 90s movies. Maybe that'll be a video eventually. Like, put me on. And it's crazy because without this class, without being forced to watch this film, I probably wouldn't have watched this film or even heard of stuff like The Wedding Banquet. Maybe after the new one came out, but I probably wouldn't have watched the old one. I mean, damn, I don't know why, but my allergies are like turning up all of a sudden. So if I sound different, that's why. I'm sorry. Maybe it's because I'm talking too much. Yeah, I probably am talking too much. This is the end of the video though. That was the last movie. The song of the day, because it's been I washed my hair yesterday and I could not stop replaying two songs actually. Flashing Lights by Kanye West. He has a problem, but the music, the old music, was really, really good. And Headlock by Imogen Heap, because I know that's been a trend on TikTok for a while. But like I'm there with you. I knew the edits were cooking, I knew the edits were tea, but I never listened to the full song before because some of these songs, there's just that one good part, but no, this whole song was a journey, kind of like a road trip film. So go listen to those songs. They're both very, very good. There you go. I'm being generous. I hope you like this video and subscribe. Maybe give me new things to watch. I would love to be recommended new things. I love trying new things sometimes, especially when told to, I suppose. Because I really don't like watching new things on my own often. I just rewatch my comfort shows like Two Broke Girls and like Ever After High and Monster High all the time all over again. But I don't mind being put on something if it's good. So, see you next time. Hopefully, maybe. Peace. Bye. Love. Kisses. All that jazz. Alrighty. Bye.